I wasn't sure if I was even going to bother making this video, for a few different reasons. One, because I don't think it's probably not the best idea to give so much attention to these very empty, hollow releases. There's probably not a whole lot I could say that you haven't already heard about this thing. But you know what? This game's already massive, and I can't get it off my mind. So I'm here making this video, just because this is too good to pass up. The existence of Garten of Banban is such a fascinating thing that nobody can stop thinking about. Never before have I seen such a staggering lack of quality in a game that it essentially defines it. Never before have I come across an indie horror title that perfectly encapsulates everything negative about the medium as a whole. One may argue that Poppy Playtime did that, but I know for a fact it didn't, now that we have this to compare it to. That's a pretty good place to start just to get this out of the way. This game is pretty much everything wrong with the current landscape of indie horror gaming, and despite it already being that, it's actually even worse than it could have been. Its mascot characters are unbelievably lazy and uninteresting, and don't have an ounce of creativity. Its lore, and I use that word very loosely, presents itself in basic and bland ways that don't even remotely engage the player. The scares are basically non-existent. This is easily the least scary game to be labeled as a horror game that I've seen personally. The concept, location, and premise are wholly unoriginal. They clearly just tried to think of a location that would be kid-friendly that technically hasn't been used yet. The mechanics are primarily puzzle-based, because there aren't enough games that do that, I guess. So they just threw in the worst mascot characters possible into an awful kid-friendly location, and to make it a game, they incorporated really lazy puzzles. It is a complete ripoff of games like Poppy Playtime and Bendy, but it takes away everything that makes those games interesting at the very least. Those games, in my opinion, are not fun or interesting, however, they are irrefutably high quality, which this game isn't. This game contains nothing original, nothing fun, and nothing engaging. It is a cash grab that knows how to become successful with the lowest amount of effort put into the product. With that being said, I fucking love this game. This game is kind of like the game version of the B-movie for me. It is insane how horrendous it is, but I find that so very entertaining. When I streamed this game for members only, become a member if you haven't, you're missing out on gold like this, there wasn't a second where I wasn't having fun. That is not to say this game has any sort of redeeming qualities, I assure you, it does not. But I can't pretend that something so horrifically stupid doesn't bring me so much joy. Security Breach, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime Chapter 2, those are the Shrek the Thirds of indie horror. They are just an absolute pain to play. Garten of Banban is the prime B-movie or Shark Tale of indie horror. It is so horrendous and unbelievably stupid, but you just can't have a bad time with it because its sole existence feels ironic. The bird that everyone is talking about is such a perfect example of what I'm talking about. It is so poorly made and an awful addition to an awful game, but it is so fucking funny that I love it. Its jump scare is probably the most poorly made jump scare I've ever seen in a piece of media. Its core mechanic is feeding it, yet the inside of its mouth has no textures. It literally looks like it's high. It is one of the laziest and overall worst characters to appear in an indie horror game yet. I fucking adore it. The one thing I can't enjoy even in an ironic way is the goddamn drone. This is like the most unique part of the game, and it is so fucking frustrating. The drone is basically this game's version of Poppy Playtime's hands. You control it to make it press buttons on the wall and shit like that, but it moves so slowly. You have to teleport it to the room you're in before you can use it. It can be terribly unresponsive at times. I cannot stress how slowly it moves. That's the worst thing about it. Here's a fun fact we learned on stream, and something I actually did when I speedran this game. Speedrunners leave the game and open their last save to save time because that is faster than waiting for the drone to come to you. At the very beginning, when you first get the drone, Instead of waiting for the drone to leave the room it's in to get to you, you leave the game and rejoin because that is more efficient. That is a real thing. Don't even get me started on the location itself. This doesn't look like it had even a little bit of thought put into it. This doesn't look like a location. It looks like a bunch of objects slammed together. It doesn't have a consistent aesthetic or style or anything of the sort. It just looks like a bunch of different things thrown into a bland, empty building. The way this whole game looks is truly shocking in the worst way possible. At this point, I'm trying really hard to think of something positive to say. So I'll point to the moment of the meme, as we call it. We're gonna write that in the Bible. The moment when the bird is coming towards you, that we've all seen pictures of. This is actually probably the objective best part of the game. The lighting actually makes it a little more eerie, and the ridiculous look of the bird isn't as shocking in this moment. Compared to a good horror game, this moment still sucks, but compared to the rest of this game, this moment is fairly suspenseful, is a word I am almost okay with using. And I guess the part where you collect eggs and feed them to the bird is also fine. It's not good enough to make the game not outrageously horrendous, but if this was just a single section in a larger game, I probably wouldn't think twice about it. This game is just really dumb. That's the best way I can think of describing this game. Hence why the title of this video is The Biggest Joke in Indie Horror. This game is tragically bad and so unoriginal that it will never be taken seriously by anyone that respects horror or even just gaming. However, it doesn't need respect or even interest from that crowd. It just needs some sort of audience. And it will now forever have that because it has caught the attention of children, which is exactly what the intention was from the very beginning. I promise you this. This game will remain successful as long as it puts in the bare minimum, which is a ridiculous sounding idea, but that is the blatant truth. As long as this game appears simplistic and keeps with the kid-friendly vibes, they can crank out shit and make money just like that. In a way, I have to respect how little this game tried. It didn't even remotely attempt at making a good product, and I would bet money on that. If you think this is bad but still had some sort of care or passion put into it, you are truly delusional and I cannot help you. With that being said though, a part of me has to love this shit show for being such a fucking shit show. Thank you for watching.
Who can say